Her husband didn't just break her heart. He melted her face while their unborn child kicked inside her. 6 months pregnant, she thought love meant safety. That night, love meant acid. The scream never made it out. 1 second, Maya Ellison reached for the switch. The next, her world turned into fire. The burning didn't stop at her skin. It crawled inside her bones, inside the small heartbeat still fighting beneath her ribs. She fell. The floor was cold. Her hands shook but still found her belly. "Please, my baby," she whispered. Outside, wind howled through the porch light. Inside, love became a weapon. Blake Rowan watched her crawl, then walked away. The door closed. The car started. He thought he'd ended her story. He was wrong. Because this isn't how Maya's life ended. It's how her second life began. Stay and follow the story to the end. You'll want to know how she survived. The rain had stopped, but thunder still rolled above the hills of Asheville. Maya Ellison drove home from the elementary school where she taught. Her hands rested on her stomach every few minutes, feeling the small kicks inside. 6 months pregnant. A baby girl. Hope, she thought. The house on Willow Street glowed softly through the mist. Her porch light flickered, a small, welcoming heartbeat in the dark. She smiled. Finally, home. Inside, everything looked normal. The couch, the half-read book, the photo from their wedding on the wall. She didn't notice the faint smell in the air, sharp, metallic, chemical. She didn't see the shadow moving near the kitchen door. Blake Rowan stood there, silent, a glass bottle in his hand. He had been waiting, watching. 3 weeks of planning led to this one quiet night. Maya hung her coat, humming softly, unaware that every sound she made echoed like a countdown. A soft creak on the floor behind her. She turned her head slightly. "Blake?" No answer, only the whisper of rain against the window. Then, silence, thick and final, right before the world caught fire. A hiss, a splash, then pain. It hit her before she understood what was happening. The liquid burned like it was alive, crawling across her skin, searing her eyes, her lips, her throat. Maya screamed, but the sound fractured, swallowed by the pain. Her knees hit the kitchen tile. The world turned white and red at once. The smell, chemical, sour, sharp, filled her lungs. She could taste metal. She could smell herself burning. "Blake!" she gasped. "What did you do?" Her voice broke apart, half human, half animal. He stood there in the shadows, his face unreadable. The bottle dangled from his hand, its last drops sizzling on the floor. "You should have left it alone," he said, voice flat like a stranger's. Maya tried to crawl toward the door. Every inch felt like dragging her body through fire. The acid clung to her skin, turning tears into salt and agony. The house was silent except for her breathing. Ragged, desperate, alive. She thought of her baby, and that was enough to make her move again. Her vision blurred, but the sound inside her body was clear, a heartbeat beneath the chaos. She pressed a trembling hand to her belly. "Please, my baby, hold on." Every nerve in her body screamed, but the kicks came again, soft, then stronger, as if the child inside was fighting with her. She crawled, inch by inch, toward the door she had just walked through. The carpet burned her palms, but she kept going. Behind her, Blake didn't move. He just watched, breathing heavy, as if waiting for the fire to finish what he started. "Blake," she rasped, the word barely air. "Hospital, please." He dropped the bottle. It shattered, acid spilling across the floor, hissing like a living thing. Then he turned away. The back door creaked open. A car started outside, and just like that, he was gone. Maya reached the front door, hand slipping on the knob. Her face was unrecognizable, her world destroyed, but her baby's heartbeat still thumped beneath her ribs. That sound kept her alive. The scream that finally escaped her wasn't human. It tore through the quiet street, shattering windows of sleep and comfort. Olivia Crane, the retired nurse next door, was pouring tea when she heard it. She froze, then ran outside barefoot in her robe. Maya was on the porch, kneeling, her hands shaking, skin blistered and smoking in the cold air. "Oh my God! Maya!" Olivia's voice trembled as she grabbed her phone. "Don't touch your face, honey. Help is coming." The 911 operator asked questions. Olivia answered through tears. "Chemical burn. 6 months pregnant. She's still conscious." She tore her robe and dipped it in cold water, holding it near Maya's skin without touching. Maya clutched her stomach, whispering, "My baby. Please, my baby." Olivia knelt beside her, voice steady despite the shaking. "Listen to me, sweetheart. Your baby's strong. You both are. Just breathe. Help is on the way." In the distance, sirens began to wail, a promise cutting through the night. And, for the first time since the pain began, Maya believed she might live. Red and blue lights painted the street as the ambulance pulled up. The sirens were a scream of their own, cutting through the rain. Paramedics rushed toward Maya, voices sharp and calm at the same time. "Keep her breathing. Watch the burns. She's pregnant. Check the fetal heartbeat." Hands and gloves moved fast, wrapping her in clean sheets, covering what they could. Olivia followed, whispering prayers she didn't remember learning. Inside the ambulance, a medic placed a monitor on Maya's belly. For a moment, only static. Then, a steady, strong rhythm filled the small space. "Heartbeat strong," he said. Maya couldn't open her eyes, but a single tear slipped down her cheek. She whispered something no one could hear. The medic leaned closer. "You're safe now. Just hang on." As the ambulance doors closed, Olivia's voice faded behind her. "You're not alone, honey. You're not alone." The siren rose again, softer this time, almost like a lullaby guiding her through the night. The next sound Maya knew was the hum of machines. Clean sheets, the smell of antiseptic. A nurse said her name, slow and gentle. She opened her eyes for a second. The world was blurry. Light too bright, air too cold. At the edge of her vision, a man leaned over her. "Miss Ellison, my name is Dr. Jameson Reed. You're in St. Augustine Memorial Hospital. You're safe." His voice was calm, deep, certain. He checked the bandages around her face, then paused. Behind her ear, a small birthmark curved like a crescent moon. He froze. For a second, the room disappeared. That shape. He had seen it before. Once on the tiny neck of a baby girl 26 years ago. He forced his breath steady. "We'll take care of you," he said softly. As the monitors beeped, he stepped back, hiding the storm rising in his chest. That night, Dr. Reed didn't go home. He sat in his office, the hallway quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights. On his desk, a photo. Old, worn, fading at the edges. His wife, smiling. The baby girl they lost. A fire. A car crash. Too many versions of the truth. He had stopped searching years ago, or at least that's what he told himself, but now, that birthmark behind Maya Ellison's ear, the same crescent, the same size, the same place. "It can't be her," he whispered. "But what if?" He stared at the hospital records on his screen. No parents listed. Born in Charlotte. Adopted at 2. Pieces that didn't fit suddenly began to align. He clenched his jaw, fighting the ache in his throat. Maybe fate wasn't finished with him. Maybe the past had just walked into his operating room. Hours turned into days. Dr. Reed led the reconstructive surgery himself. He worked in silence, guiding every stitch, every graft, as if repairing something sacred. When Maya finally woke, her body ached everywhere. Her throat was raw, her face wrapped in layers of gauze. She tried to speak but only managed to whisper, "My baby?" The nurse smiled. "She's strong." Her heart never faltered. Maya exhaled, tears soaking the pillow. She touched her bandaged cheek. "Am I?" Dr. Reed answered quietly, "You'll look like someone who survived." She didn't understand what that meant yet, but she nodded, because survival was more than she expected to have. He watched her drift back to sleep. In that moment, she wasn't his patient. She was the living echo of the daughter he lost, and maybe somehow, the one he'd found. 2 days later, Detective Marcus Sullivan arrived. His suit smelled faintly of rain. His eyes were tired but steady. He spoke with Dr. Reed first, then turned to Maya's bed. "Mrs. Ellison, I'm sorry, but I have to ask some questions." Her voice was weak. "Did they find him?" Sullivan hesitated. "No. Blake Rowan's car was abandoned near the state line, laptop inside, half a tank of gas. No sign of him." He opened a file and read quietly. He purchased industrial acid online. He also took out a life insurance policy. $500,000. You were the beneficiary. The words hit harder than any painkiller could numb. Money. That was the price of her life. Maya turned her face away, tears slipping under the bandages. "Why?" she whispered. Sullivan didn't answer. He just closed the folder. Outside, thunder rolled again, echoing the truth she already knew. Love had turned into greed, and greed had tried to kill her. Detective Sullivan returned 2 days later with a folder thick enough to break her heart twice. He laid it on the table beside Maya's bed. "Your husband's not just running," he said quietly. "He's been living another life." Maya's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Sullivan opened the file. Photos, bank statements, messages, a name. Vanessa Cole. Works at his company. They've been together for months. He turned another page. He owed over $60,000 in debt, gambling, mostly. The policy was his way out. You die, he collects $500,000. They start fresh. Maya's fingers curled into the blanket. Every word felt heavier than the burns on her face. "So I was his escape plan," she whispered. Sullivan hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Maya stared at the ceiling. The man she once prayed beside, shared meals with, carried their wedding photo everywhere, had put a dollar sign on her life. Money. That's what love had turned into. The next morning, Olivia Crane came to the hospital. She carried a small bouquet and her same old strength. Maya turned her head as she entered, tears already waiting. Olivia sat beside her, taking her hand. "You don't have to say anything." For a while, they just breathed in the quiet hum of machines. Then Maya whispered, "He wanted me gone." Olivia squeezed her fingers gently. "But you're still here." Maya closed her eyes. "I don't feel alive." "You don't have to feel it," Olivia said softly. "You just have to keep breathing until you do." Tears slid down Maya's cheeks. "You're alive. That's what matters," Olivia added. Those words landed deeper than comfort. They sounded like permission, to grieve, to stay, to start again someday. Olivia stood to leave. "I'll be right next door if you need me." When she was gone, Maya looked at her reflection in the window, blurred, broken, but breathing. Alive. Somehow, still alive. Later that night, Dr. Reed returned to Maya's room. She was asleep, her breathing steady under the dim light. He studied her face, the faint line of her jaw, the shape of her hands. It was impossible, and yet every instinct in him whispered otherwise. He reached for a swab, careful, respectful, a small sample from the edge of a bandage. No harm, no trace. "I have to know," he murmured. In his office, he sealed the envelope himself. DNA analysis, standard procedure, nothing unusual. At least, that's what he wrote on the request form. He stared at the paperwork for a long time before signing. His hands shook as he pressed the pen down. "Forgive me," he said quietly to the empty room. "If I'm wrong, it's only a hope. If I'm right—" He couldn't finish. The night nurse walked past, nodding politely. Dr. Reed smiled faintly, hiding everything behind years of practiced calm. When Maya was stable enough to speak with her lawyer, the news arrived like another blow. Blake had mortgaged the house without telling her. The bank had seized it 2 days after the attack. Everything. Gone. Her home, her savings, even the small nursery she'd painted yellow, all under his name. She sat in silence, the papers spread across her lap. "He took everything," she said quietly. The lawyer looked at her gently. "There's a process to appeal, but it'll take time." Time. She had plenty of it now, but nothing else. When he left, she stared at the wall. A hospital clock ticked slowly. marking each second she no longer owned. No house, no husband, no face she recognized. All that remained was a heartbeat she hadn't yet met, the only proof she still had something left to protect. And, for the first time, she wondered if survival was a gift or a punishment. That evening, Olivia returned with soup she knew Maya wouldn't eat. The hospital lights dimmed, the air cold and sterile. Maya spoke without looking up. "I can't survive this." Olivia pulled a chair closer. "You already did." The words hung in the quiet. Maya shook her head. "I've lost everything. My home, my husband, even my own face." Olivia leaned forward. "You didn't lose your soul, Maya. That's what they never get to take." Maya's hands trembled. "I don't even know who I am anymore." "You're someone still here," Olivia said softly. "That's who you are." Outside, the rain returned. Steady, gentle, forgiving. Maya closed her eyes and let the sound fill the cracks inside her. She didn't answer, but her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. There it was again, a kick, a reminder, a reason, and for the first time since the attack she whispered to herself, maybe I can. 3 days later, Dr. Reed received the email from the genetics lab. He stared at the subject line for a long time before opening it. Paternity Analysis, Maya Ellison. The document was short, clinical, cold, absolute. Probability of biological relationship, 99.99%. He felt his breath leave his body. For a moment, he couldn't move. 26 years of searching, of loss, of unanswered prayers, condensed into one number. It was her, his daughter. When he walked into her hospital room, she was reading a letter from the insurance company, her face blank. "Maya," he began softly, voice trembling, "there's something you should know." She looked up. "What now? Another bill?" He swallowed. "No, it's about you. And me." She frowned. "What are you talking about?" He handed her the paper. "You're my daughter." She stared at the page, then at him. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The monitor beside her beeped steadily. Proof of life. Proof of shock. Proof of something beginning again. It took seconds for disbelief to turn into fury. "Your daughter?" Maya's voice cracked. "Where were you? Where were you all those years I needed someone?" Dr. Reed stepped back, shaken. "I didn't know. Your mother, she was sick. She took you and vanished. I searched." "Not hard enough!" she screamed. Tears streamed down her face, burning the healing skin beneath the bandages. "I grew up alone. I thought nobody wanted me. Do you know what that feels like?" He closed his eyes. "Every day." Maya's breath hitched. "You can't just show up now and fix this. You can't fix me." "I'm not trying to fix you," he said, voice breaking. "I'm trying to love you." Silence. Only the hum of machines between them. She turned her face away. "I don't even know who I am anymore." "You're my daughter," he whispered. She shook her head. "No, I'm the woman Blake tried to kill. That's who I am." But even as she said it, something deep inside her cracked open. A wound older than her scars. That night, Maya dreamed. A room painted yellow. A woman's voice humming softly. The faint smell of lavender. She was small again. 3, maybe 4. Her fingers clutched a stuffed bear missing one eye. The woman's hands rubbed lotion on her arms. "Lavender lullabies," the voice said. "They help you sleep." Maya woke gasping, her pillow damp with tears. For the first time the memory felt real, not something imagined, but something remembered. She whispered into the dark, "Mom?" The word tasted both new and ancient. When Dr. Reed checked on her in the morning, she asked quietly, "Did she really sing to me?" He nodded. Every night. She called them her lavender lullabies. Maya's eyes filled. "I thought I made it up." He smiled gently. "Some memories wait until we're ready to remember them." She looked down at her hands. "Then I think I'm finally ready." A week later, Maya signed the consent forms for her second surgery. Dr. Reed explained each step, careful but hopeful. "This isn't just about restoring your face," he said. "We're not rebuilding beauty. We're rebuilding courage." She nodded, tears in her eyes. Then let's do it. The surgery lasted 8 hours. Skin grafts, cartilage repair, symmetry alignment. Each move deliberate, precise. When she woke in recovery, her face was wrapped again, but something inside her felt lighter. "How did it go?" she asked. Dr. Reed smiled softly. "Better than I hoped." She touched her bandages. "So, courage looks like this?" He chuckled. "It looks exactly like this." Later, as she drifted back to sleep, she realized she was no longer afraid of mirrors. Not because she knew what she'd see, but because she was finally ready to face it. A few days after surgery, a woman arrived at the hospital. Blonde hair, tired eyes, trembling hands clutching a folder. "I'm Vanessa Cole," she said quietly. Maya froze. The name hit like a slap. "I know who you are," she said flatly. Vanessa nodded, tears forming. "I didn't come to justify anything. I came to tell the truth." She opened the folder. Inside were printed emails, receipts, insurance forms. "He told me the policy was for business. I didn't know he planned to use it on you, I swear." Maya looked at her, expression unreadable. "Why bring this to me?" "Because I want him to pay," Vanessa said. "And because I need you to know. I didn't know what kind of man he was until it was too late." Maya stared at the folder for a long time, then nodded slowly. "Then help me put him away." And just like that, the woman who helped destroy her life became the one who might help her rebuild it. Vanessa's hands trembled as she waited for Maya's answer. For a long time, there was only silence. The air between them felt heavy, full of old pain. Finally, Maya said, "You're not my enemy. He is." Vanessa looked up, startled. "After everything, you don't hate me?" "I did," Maya admitted, "but hate keeps me tied to him. I won't give him that power anymore." Vanessa nodded, tears spilling over. "I'm sorry for everything." "I know," Maya whispered. "Now let's make sure he never hurts anyone else." They exchanged a look. Two women, broken by the same man, both choosing to stop being victims. When Vanessa left, Maya stared out the hospital window. The morning light hit her face through the gauze, warm and fragile. She didn't forgive her peace with Vanessa. She forgave to set herself free, and though her scars would remain, they no longer felt like chains. A week later, Detective Sullivan walked into Maya's room with a rare smile. "They got him," he said. Maya's heart stopped. "Blake?" "Pennsylvania State Police picked him up this morning. He was hiding in an old cabin near the woods. No fight, no resistance." She didn't speak at first, just let the words sink in. After all the pain, the surgeries, the sleepless nights, it was over. "Is he coming back here?" she asked. "Yes. He'll stand trial in North Carolina. Attempted murder, insurance fraud, identity theft." Maya let out a shaky breath. "Good." Sullivan nodded. "You did everything right, Maya. You survived long enough for justice to catch up." She turned her face toward the window. For the first time since that night, the world outside didn't look dangerous. It looked wide open. 2 weeks after Blake's arrest, Maya went into labor. The pain came fast and fierce, but she didn't panic. She had survived worse. Dr. Reed was there, refusing to leave her side. When the contractions peaked, he whispered, "Breathe, Maya. You've done harder things than this." Hours blurred into minutes, minutes into eternity. Then, a cry, sharp and new, filled the room. The nurse placed a tiny, warm body on her chest. Maya looked down through tears. "Hello, my baby girl. You made it." The baby's eyes blinked open, wide and curious. Her fists curled, her breath steady. "Her name?" the nurse asked. Maya smiled through exhaustion. "Lily Hope." It wasn't just a name. It was a promise. Lily, because something beautiful had bloomed from ruin. Hope, because it was the only thing that ever kept her alive. Dr. Reed stood at the foot of the hospital bed, unsure if he should move closer. Maya noticed, smiling faintly. "You can hold her." He hesitated. "It's been a long time since I held a baby." "Then it's time to remember," she said. He reached out, hands trembling, and took Lily into his arms. The world went still. Tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb. Her skin was impossibly soft. Her heart beat, steady and sure. He swallowed hard. "Hello, little one. I'm your grandpa." Maya watched him, tears running freely now. For years he had carried the guilt of losing a child. Now he was holding her child. The same blood, the same miracle. "I lost you once," he said softly, looking at Maya. "But this time, I'm here to stay." She smiled. "Then we're both getting a second chance." 3 months later, Maya and Lily moved into Dr. Reed's home in Asheville. The house sat on a quiet hill surrounded by trees. When Maya walked inside, she froze. Down the hallway, a door stood slightly open. Dr. Reed followed her gaze. "That was your room," he said. Inside, everything remained. A small bed with a pink blanket, a shelf of children's books, a stuffed bear with one missing eye. She touched the bear's fur, a rush of memory flooding in. "I dreamed about this," she whispered. "I kept it the same," Dr. Reed said softly, "in case you ever came back." Maya sat on the bed, holding Lily against her chest. "This doesn't feel like the past," she said. "It feels like starting over." He smiled. "That's what home is supposed to feel like." And for the first time in decades, the house felt full again. Not with ghosts, but with life. Autumn came to Asheville wrapped in quiet rain. Maya sat at the kitchen table, holding a subpoena in her hand. Her name was printed in bold letters, State versus Blake Rowan. Dr. Reed read over her shoulder. "You don't have to go through this alone." "I know," she said, "but I have to go through it." He nodded slowly. "Are you sure?" Maya looked out the window, watching leaves fall into the yard. "He wanted me to live in fear. I won't hide." Her voice was steady, no tremor left. Later that night she stood in front of the mirror, tracing her scars with calm acceptance. "This is who I am now," she whispered, "and he's going to see it." When Lily stirred in her crib, Maya walked over and kissed her forehead. "For you," she murmured, "for every woman who thought she couldn't fight back." She turned off the light. Tomorrow, she would face her monster, not as a victim, but as a survivor who had already won. The courtroom was full. Reporters, strangers, the sound of whispering tension. Maya sat at the witness stand, her scars uncovered. Across the room, Blake looked smaller than she remembered. The prosecutor asked, "Do you recognize the defendant?" Maya's voice didn't shake. "Yes, he's the man who tried to kill me." Gasps rippled through the room. She continued, calm and deliberate, describing that night, the acid, the burning, the crawling toward life. When the defense tried to twist her words, she didn't flinch. At the end, the prosecutor asked, "Is there anything else you'd like to say?" Maya looked straight at Blake. "He tried to destroy me. Instead, he made me unstoppable." The room went silent. Even Blake looked away. Dr. Reed squeezed her hand as she stepped down. For the first time, she felt lighter. She had taken her story back. 3 days later, the jury returned. Guilty, on all counts. The judge's voice carried the weight of finality. "Blake Rowan, you are sentenced to 40 years in prison without parole." Maya sat perfectly still, her hand resting on her lap. 40 years. Enough time for her daughter to grow up free. Blake glanced at her one last time as the guards led him away. She didn't return the look. Justice didn't feel like triumph. It felt like release. Outside the courthouse, Detective Sullivan met her with a soft smile. "You did it." She shook her head. "No, we did." Dr. Reed placed an arm around her shoulder. "It's over, Maya." She looked up at the sky, the clouds breaking open to sunlight. "No," she said quietly, "it's just beginning." Months later, Maya returned to teaching. The classroom smelled like crayons and chalk, just like before. Her new students didn't know her story until one boy, curious and innocent, raised his hand. "Miss Ellison, what happened to your face?" The class went silent. Maya smiled. "Someone tried to end my story," she said softly, "but I kept writing it." The boy grinned. "Then you must be really brave." "Maybe," she replied, "or maybe I just refuse to stop turning the pages." The bell rang. The children scattered out laughing. Maya stood by the window, sunlight tracing the faint scars across her cheek. She touched them lightly. Proof, not of pain, but of power. For the first time, her reflection looked whole. 1 year later, the doors of the Lily Hope Foundation opened. A safe space for women like her, those who had survived the unthinkable and were ready to rebuild. Maya stood before the gathered crowd, Lily on her hip, Dr. Reed smiling proudly in the front row. She took a breath and spoke. "The acid took my face," she said, "but I took back my life." Applause filled the hall, soft at first, then thunderous. She looked at the women in the audience, eyes shining with tears and courage. "You are not what happened to you," she said. "You are what you choose next." She smiled at the camera. "If you believe in second chances, share this story. You never know who might need it." Lily reached for the microphone, giggling. And in that moment, 3 generations of survivors stood in one room. Proof that love, not fear, always wins.